For many years, I have been their mainstay. I gave them my time, my resources, my soul. I believed that this was family. But one small yellow letter changed everything. That evening, I learned the truth that split my life in two, showing that devotion and love are not always mutual concepts. Suddenly, I was faced with a choice: continue to be a convenient victim or finally choose myself. That's when I made a decision that they didn't know about. The decision that started the irreversible countdown. Watch to the end to see how this month of silence and one call turned out for my family. After accidentally discovering that their parents had bequeathed their entire fortune to her sister, she stopped transferring payments for their bills. 4 weeks later, her mother called. "Honey, the utility bill has arrived." She reacted in a way that no one expected. And before we continue, please indicate which state you are watching this video in. We wish you a pleasant listening experience. Sarah was standing at the kitchen counter, as usual, absently staring at the columns of numbers on the display of her laptop. Paying her parents' housing bills was a monthly debt that she regularly fulfilled over the years: electricity, natural gas, water supply, cable TV. Without her, Patricia and Robert just couldn't seem to cope. She took a deep breath. It wasn't that it was too much, but sometimes she felt like she was a heavy truck pulling the entire family cart. Her younger sister, Jessica, was probably picking out a new dress for a social event or discussing the latest gossip with her friends. Jessica lived in a completely different reality, a world of carelessness and pleasure, where the rent disappeared by itself and problems disappeared by magic. Sarah wasn't envious, no, but sometimes she really wanted a little more recognition. Patricia, her mother, often mentored. Jessica needs a lot of freedom. She's a creative person. And you're practical, Sarchik. You'll always find a way out. Sarah really always found a way out. She worked as a financial analyst for a large corporation, managed her house, and always managed to help her parents. Jessica, on the other hand, created, as Patricia put it, replacing one hobby with another, from digital art seminars to Pilates lessons, of course, paid for from the family budget, which, for the most part, was replenished by Sarah. That day, after work and completing all her duties, Sarah decided to visit her parents. She bought their favorite chocolate forest view cake and a bottle of excellent Merlot. She just wanted to sit with them, have a heart-to-heart chat, and feel like a full-fledged family member, not just a donor of funds. When she entered the apartment, Patricia was busy in the kitchen, and Robert, her father, was sitting in his armchair in front of the television screen, as usual, absorbed in watching a baseball game. "Sarchik, honey, come in," Patricia greeted her joyfully. "Yes, my daughter," Robert looked up from the screen. "You're late today." "Work, Dad," Sarah replied. "You know that." The evening followed the usual pattern. They drank hot tea with dessert, exchanged news. Robert grumbled at political figures, and Patricia shared stories about her neighbors. Jessica, as always, was not there. She must have urgent business, Sarah thought, with a slight twinge of resentment. After tea, Sarah offered to help her mother with tidying up. Patricia agreed, and together they began sorting through the old things in the back room. Sarah didn't like this activity. The pantry was always dusty and cramped, but Patricia adamantly refused to get rid of the precious memorabilia. It was there, among old photo cards, yellowed messages, and other family artifacts, that Sarah discovered it. A modest envelope with the title, "Last Will in Order." Curiosity got the better of him. She knew it was rude to look at other people's papers, but the envelope seemed to attract her, promising to reveal a secret. Sarah hastily opened the envelope and unfolded the legal document. Her heart began to race. She began to read, and with each line she was seized with growing horror. This document clearly and unambiguously stated that all the property of Patricia and Robert, including their condominium, bank holdings, and a country cottage, was transferred to the sole possession of Jessica. She felt a wave of indignation, rage, and deep disappointment rise in her chest. How could they? How could they treat her like this, with that person who was always there for them, who constantly provided support, who invariably put their needs above their own? She folded the document back into the envelope and put it in her pocket. Patricia returned to the utility room. "What did you find there, Sarchik?" "What is it?" she asked, looking over her shoulder. "It's nothing special, Mom," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice calm. "Just old pictures. She spent the rest of the evening as if in oblivion. She tried to smile and maintain a relaxed dialogue, but everything inside her was bubbling. She felt betrayed, and completely isolated. When it was time to say goodbye, Patricia hugged her tightly. "Thank you, daughter, for stopping by," she said. "We are always so warm with you." Sarah just nodded dumbly. She couldn't say a word, fearing that her emotions would burst out. At that very moment, Sarah made a firm decision. No more payments, no prescription drugs, no help around the house. Let Jessica, the chosen one and the only heir, now take care of her parents. When she got home, she called Susan, her best friend. "Susie, I need to talk to you seriously," she said, barely holding back her sobs. "It's very bad," Susan asked worriedly. "My parents are fine," Sarah replied. "But with me, everything is really bad with me. I need you to listen to me." Susan arrived 30 minutes later. Sarah told her everything, without missing a single detail. Susan listened in silence, sometimes comforting her friend with hugs. "Sarah, I don't even know what to say," Susan said when Sarah had finished her story. "This is monstrous, simply unthinkable." "I know," Sarah replied. "I just can't understand how they could do that." "Sarah, they made a serious mistake," Susan said. "But that's no reason for you to continue to suffer because of it. You have every right to your own well-being, to your own happiness." "I understand," Sarah repeated, "and I decided that I would no longer be silent. I will no longer sacrifice myself for those who don't appreciate it." "And this is absolutely the right decision, Sarah," Susan supported her. "Thank you, Susie," she replied. "You always give me support." "How could it be otherwise?" Susan replied. "We're not just friends, we're like sisters." Sarah realized that she had a very difficult period of life ahead of her, and the first step towards this new reality was the decision to completely stop paying the bills for her parents. After some time, there was a deceptive lull in the house of Patricia and Robert. Life went on as if nothing had changed. The monthly bills had not yet arrived. The supply of medicines was sufficient, and the usual routine of life was not disrupted. Robert, as usual, was grumbling about the morning talk show, Patricia was doing household chores, and the TV was broadcasting the latest news. They didn't even immediately notice Sarah's absence. At first, Patricia attributed Sarah's absence to her heavy workload. "She must be busy at work," she said, trying not to show her excitement. Robert, in turn, dismissively waved away. "Where can she go? She'll come running like a sweetheart," he muttered, staring at the financial newspaper. However, the days followed each other, and Sarah did not appear. There were no calls, no visits, not even a brief text message. Patricia began to really worry. She dialed her daughter's phone several times, but she did not answer. Then she contacted Susan, Sarah's best friend, hoping to find out at least some information. "Susan, hello. This is Patricia, Sarah's mom," she began in a deliberately pleasant tone. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Patricia Walker," Susan replied in a restrained tone. "Everything is fine with us. And you?" "Yes, I'm worried about Sarchik. She's completely gone. She's not calling. She's not coming. Have you seen her by any chance?" "Sarchik? We've seen each other, of course. Sarah is very busy right now. She has a lot of responsibilities." "What happened? Why doesn't she talk to us? Maybe we offended her in some way." "You'd better ask her that question yourself, Mrs. Walker," I replied, "and I have no right to reveal other people's secrets." Patricia felt herself getting annoyed by Susan's evasiveness. "Well, at least give me a hint of what's going on. I'm her mother, after all. She needs time and personal space. She'll explain everything to you when she's ready. In the meantime, I'm sorry, I have to go. Goodbye." She started playing like a gramophone. Time and space. What an absurdity. But deep down, Robert also began to feel anxious. Sarah's absence and the habitual confidence in her unconditional support were beginning to dissipate. The first clear alarm sounded when the notices of payment for utilities were delivered to the mailbox. Out of habit, Patricia took them out, intending to put them away until Sarah arrived. But then it dawned on her, now they would have to deal with this documentation themselves. She tried to figure it out on her own, but quickly got confused. She called the housing authority, but they answered her in a harsh tone and demanded the client's identification number, which, of course, she did not know where to find. In the end, she hung up in desperation. "Rob, what should we do? I don't understand anything." "Stop it," she pleaded. Robert frowned and picked up the receipts. He studied them for a long time, trying to match the pieces of information. He was used to his daughter always taking care of everything, saving him any unnecessary trouble. "Okay, we'll figure it out," he muttered, although he doubted his own abilities. They spent several hours trying to figure out how to make a payment for utilities. In the end, they managed to pay the bills, but it cost them tremendous effort and nerves. On the evening of that day, when the two of them, Patricia and Robert, were trying to sort out the payment notices, for the first time they fully realized how critically dependent they were on Sarah. They realized that she wasn't just subsidizing them, she was in fact ensuring their existence. And now that her financial support had suddenly stopped, they were completely unable to live independently. Patricia couldn't stand it and called her daughter again. This time, Sarah picked up the phone. "My daughter, what happened? Why don't you call? Don't you visit?" Patricia asked worriedly. "What's the big deal?" Her daughter's distant voice sounded. "Don't you have Jessica? She's your heir. Let her take care of you now." Patricia fell silent, stunned by Sarah's words. It was the first time she had heard such resentment and bitterness in her daughter's voice. "But Sar, we're your parents. How can you say that? How could you do this to me? I've supported you all my life, and you decided to transfer your entire fortune to someone who doesn't even remember you." "We just wanted her to have a guaranteed future," Patricia stammered, feeling a lump rise in her throat. "Don't I have a future? Do I have to work my whole life for you and Jessica?" "No, of course not. We didn't think about it," Patricia confessed. "That's right. You've never thought about me," Sarah snapped. "Now live as you know. I won't sponsor you anymore." Sarah interrupted the conversation, leaving Patricia in tears. She turned to Robert and recounted their conversation. Robert sat with his head down. He felt guilty and completely confused. He knew that they had made a terrible mistake in favoring Jessica, but how could they fix it now? 1 month has passed. Sarah tried to distract herself from thoughts of her parents, completely immersed in professional activities and pottery. The potter's wheel became a way for her to tame the emotions bubbling inside. She created vases, bowls, and small sculptures, putting pent-up rage, pain from betrayal, and, oddly enough, hope into them. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in Patricia and Robert's condo was completely different. Soon, health problems were added to the financial difficulties. Robert ran out of medications for hypertension, and he felt unwell. They didn't have the money to buy them at a pharmacy or make a paid appointment with a cardiologist. "I need to call Jessica," Patricia said resignedly. "Maybe she can help in some way." Jessica, as always, was extremely busy. She was getting ready for a party with friends. Her parents' call was really annoying her. "Mom, what happened again?" "What is it?" she asked unhappily. Patricia, trying to hide her panic, explained the situation. "Maybe you can help us a little?" Jessica let out a deep sigh. "Mom, I told you so. I'm not doing well right now either. There's a lot of time at work. Anyway, I'm not Sarah to solve all your problems. Try to figure it out for yourself somehow." And without waiting for an answer, Jessica switched off. Patricia lowered her arms and looked at Robert. His eyes reflected her own fear and disappointment. "What should we do now?" "What is it?" she whispered. Robert was silent. He felt helpless and guilty. Jessica put down her phone and felt a fleeting pang of conscience. She knew that her parents needed support right now, but she didn't want to disrupt her plans. A party, new acquaintances, a chance to post attractive photos on Snapchat, all this seemed to her much more significant than someone's problems with pressure and payments. They tried to persuade Sarah to return to her previous commitments. "Sar, hello," Jessica said, trying to make her voice as friendly as possible. "Here's the deal. Parents really need help. Maybe you'll change your mind after all and help them out?" Sarah, hearing her sister's voice, felt a surge of indignation. "Jessica, you know perfectly well why I don't help my parents anymore," she retorted coldly. Don't give me the responsibility for not wanting to take care of them yourself. You're an heiress now, so do it. Jessica tried to get in a word, but Sarah interrupted her. Don't call me anymore. I don't have time for idle chatter, and disconnected the connection. Jessica, feeling humiliated and insulted, threw her mobile phone on the sofa. That bitch, she hissed. How dare she do this to her parents? She decided that Sarah was just jealous of her attractiveness, her success, her carefree lifestyle. Otherwise, how can you explain her callousness and indifference? The parents made attempts to talk to Sarah, but she kept her distance. Patricia repeatedly dialed her number, trying to start a dialogue, but Sarah answered evasively, citing busyness and overwork. She didn't want to enter into a lengthy explanation for fear of losing her temper and venting all her accumulated anger. She needed time to think about what had happened, to decide how to move on. Sarchik, why are you acting like a stranger? Patricia spoke with a tear in her voice on the phone. We're your parents. Can't you understand us? Understand what, Mom? Sarah replied dryly. That you've been exploiting me for years, and now that I'm no longer comfortable, you suddenly remember that I'm your daughter? Robert also tried to talk to Sarah, but his attempts were even less successful. He was a taciturn person, and it was difficult for him to express his emotions. He just called and didn't answer the phone, hoping that Sarah would speak on her own. But Sarah remained silent in response, and the call was interrupted. They began to seriously consider how to regain her trust. Patricia and Robert spent long evenings discussing what had happened. They remembered all the times when they preferred Jessica, when they didn't notice Sarah's efforts, when they took her care for granted. We were blind, Patricia confessed, wiping away tears. We only saw what we wanted to see. We assumed that Sarah would always be there, that she would not go anywhere. But she is also a human being. She also has feelings. We should have thought earlier. We should have thought earlier, Robert grumbled. Now we are reaping the benefits. Jessica, realizing that she was responsible for her parents after several unsuccessful attempts to help them pay off bills and purchase medicines, began to ignore their calls. It was hard for her. She's not used to this kind of role. She's used to just receiving, not giving. Why me? She complained to her friend on the phone. Why should I be the one to take it out on them? Sarah is richer anyway, even if she helps. The friend, however, was in no hurry to comfort her. She knew that Jessica had always been spoiled and narcissistic, and she didn't feel much sympathy for her. Jessica, it's your own fault, the friend said. You always took advantage of the fact that Sarah was paying for all of you, and now that she's stopped doing it, are you suddenly offended? It's kind of weird. Jessica hung up the phone in a rage. She felt cornered. On the one hand, she didn't want to take on this burden. On the other hand, she understood that if she did not do this, her parents would disappear. Sarah felt liberated, but there was still pain in her soul from the betrayal she had experienced. She continued to attend pottery classes where she found solace and the opportunity to express her emotions. Susan supported her in everything. She saw Sarah gaining new self-confidence and personal strength. Don't hold it against your parents, Susan said. They're your parents after all. They made a mistake, but they realized it. Give them a chance to improve. Sarah remained silent, not knowing what to say. She knew Susan was right, but forgiving her parents was incredibly difficult for her. The resentment was too deep. Unwilling to rush to forgiveness, Sarah soon received a call from Patricia, who informed her of their decision. Sarchik, we've redone all the documents, said Patricia. Now the property will be divided equally between you and Jessica. We realize that we were unfair to you. Sarah listened to her mother in silence and then replied, It's not about inheritance, Mom. The thing is, you didn't appreciate me. You took my help for granted, but you praised Jessica only for the fact that she exists. I need time to get over it. Despite the internal struggle, Sarah noticed that she was gradually becoming softer. She saw how her parents tried to fix their mistakes and how hard it was for them to do without her support. She felt that her anger was gradually being replaced by compassion. One evening, when Sarah was doing pottery, Jessica called her. She sounded worried and scared. Sarah, Daddy's not well, Jessica said. He needs an urgent surgical operation, and we don't have the funds. Please help me." Sarah froze, clutching a piece of clay in her hands. She knew that Robert had been suffering from coronary artery disease for a long time, but she did not think that the situation was so serious. "What exactly happened?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her composure. Jessica explained that Robert had had a heart attack, and the medical specialist had declared the need for immediate surgical intervention. The cost of the operation was enormous, and they didn't have that much money. "Mom's panicking," Jessica continued. "I've been trying to find the money, but I'm not getting anywhere. Please, Sarah, help us out." Sarah was silent, thinking about what she had heard. She understood that her father's life depended on her decision. She could refuse to help, and then Robert might not survive. But she also realized that if she helped, her parents could start using her again. "I'll think about it," Sarah said, and ended the call. Two strong feelings were fighting in her soul: resentment and affection. Resentment at her parents for their unfair treatment, and love for her father, whom she did not want to lose. In the end, love won. Sarah decided to help her father. She knew it would be difficult, and that she might have to face parental ingratitude again. She called Jessica back and said she would help raise the finances for the operation. Jessica was overjoyed and thanked her. Sarah immediately began calling her friends and colleagues, asking for donations. Together, they accumulated the required amount of money, and Robert underwent heart surgery. The operation was successful, and Robert began to recover. In the hospital room, Sarah and Jessica were sitting next to him. They looked at him with tenderness and appreciation. For the first time in a long time, they felt like a full-fledged family. When Sarah came to visit her father one more time, Patricia came up to her and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Sarchik," said Patricia, crying. "You saved his life. We will never forget it." "I appreciate your words," Sarah replied, "but I can't go back to the way it was before. I don't want to be the family treasurer anymore. I want to do what I like and live the way I want to." Patricia and Robert exchanged glances. They understood that Sarah had every right to her life. They made a mistake, which now they will have to atone for on their own. "We're not asking for everything to be returned to the way it was, Sarah," Patricia said. "We just want you to know that we love you and deeply regret the way we treated you." Sarah nodded. That was all she wanted to hear: a confession, an apology, and understanding. At that moment, she realized that a real family is not only about blood ties, but also mutual support and care, and that forgiveness is the key to spiritual healing and reconciliation.